Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this World Council of Credit Unions webinar. My name is Liz Stanislawski, and I'm the Director of Communications for World Council. Today's session, Why Member Lifetime Value Growth is Stalling, What's Working and What's Not, will explore how credit unions can strengthen long-term member relationships and drive sustainable growth in an evolving loyalty landscape. As traditional loyalty models built around points and discounts become more costly and less effective, many organizations are exploring new approaches that deliver everyday value, build deeper connections with members, and better reflect the communities they serve. Today's panel will share insights on how credit unions can rethink loyalty strategies to grow member lifetime value in a more sustainable and impactful way. Now, before we begin, a couple of quick housekeeping notes. If you have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Our panelist, Ivan, will get to as many as time allows. This session is being recorded and will be available on Woku's YouTube channel later this week. Now let's take a minute to learn a little bit more about points for purpose with this video.
They call it the new normal. Millions of businesses are closing, and no one has been left untouched. Supporting economic recovery and building community are now more important than ever. Loyalty programs can make a real difference. Yet with over 3.8 billion loyalty memberships, people are active in less than half. Why? Often loyalty rewards are simply not engaging, and members are unsure of their value. The result is over $100 billion in unredeemed points. At the same time, charities are struggling to source vital fundraising. 1.5 million nonprofits in America are estimating a shortfall of $38 billion over the next 12 months. And though community is more important than ever, people are unsure how to support the charities they care about, so the gap continues to grow. There is a solution. Introducing Points for Purpose, the loyalty platform that gives back. By bringing brands, businesses, and charities together, customers can now shop, spend, earn, and donate their loyalty points to the charities they love, turning points into purpose and shoppers into donors. Points for Purpose is an innovative digital social exchange platform that enables customers to earn reward points when they shop and use those points to support the causes they are passionate about. The platform works on mobile and desktop and incorporates the latest in proven card linking technology, so the experience is seamless. Brands and businesses can use Points for Purpose to build engaged relationships with their customers, increase spend and shopping frequency, and acquire new valued customers. Plus, the platform data can be used to mine deeper insights and track against social impact goals. Charities win too. Through the platform, they are able to unlock new donations, re-engage lapsed donors, and appeal to new corporate sponsors. Points for Purpose engages customers, supports charities, and in doing so, does good in the world at the time we need this most. Points for Purpose, the loyalty platform that gives back.
Okay, with that, I'm happy to turn it over to today's host, Ivan Schwartz, Managing Director at Points for Purpose, to introduce our panelists. Ivan, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Liz. It's a real thrill to be here. I mentioned a little earlier that the next Woku conference is on in our hometown here in Sydney, so it's synchronous that we should have an Aussie flavor to the conversation today. But it's been an absolute pleasure working with Woku, and we're really looking forward to, I think, Joni, you called it a fireside chat. So, yeah, just really excited about the conversation today. So I'm going to jump straight in. I cannot see Rihanna. There you are. We're going to go ladies first. especially our lady from Adelaide here in Australia and round the room. I wonder if we can start off, Rihanna, with you just introducing yourself and telling us a little about what you do in your day job.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm one of the service team leaders at the Member Service Centre at Beyond Bank. So I'm based in Adelaide, Australia, but our call centre is based all around the country here in Australia. So I have a direct team of around 17 staff that I help support, coach, develop, but also the greater call centre across Australia, just essentially help them uh, give the best customer service that they can to our members.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rihanna. On to you, Chris, from downtown Austin.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, and thank you for having me. My name's Chris Turnley. I spent the last 7 years as Executive Vice President at University Federal Credit Union here in Austin, Texas. Prior to that, spent a lot of time in the fintech. I've founded my own fintechs, a couple of them, sold them off in the payment space, and have done really about a decade worth of work in the fintech space. And so I think I sit the last 5 months in a transition and thinking about how those two play more together. How do we really take those fintechs that can most affect the growth and impact of the credit unions, and how do we make sure that we're aligned in that member story and journey that we're going to really investigate today?
Thanks, Chris. And last but definitely not least, our numbers man, Les Poole. Over to you, Les.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Ivan, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a credit union guy. I've been in the movement for 30 years now. Started out NCUA, NAFCU, Callahan. Most recently, I was Senior Vice President of Credit Union Solutions for the Maryland DC League. Uh, right now I do consulting, for emerging tech companies like Points for Purpose, helping them help credit unions, right, grow and prosper. I'm also been a career director. I'm currently on the board of a $2 billion credit union in Maryland, and I serve as the treasurer.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we really have three different perspectives on this vested topic of member lifetime value. Um, I think it would be fair to say, Rihanna, you are in the trenches perhaps a little bit more than Chris and Les are. But I
Yeah, I
wonder if
guess
we
you could
can,
call it the front line of service, definitely.
yeah. I wonder if we can kick off with you. The question simply is, what are some of the challenges you've been facing in growing member lifetime value? And I'm wondering if each of you could please, I know it's tough, but highlight just three that are real standouts. I know we could talk about this for at least the next hour, but let's just go around the room and kick off with from not only an Aussie perspective, not only from a female perspective, but your age. You're a little bit younger than I think the three of us are. So very interested to have you kick this one off, Rihanna.
Absolutely. Well, on that, I think one of our biggest challenges is engaging the younger generations. I think that's probably the biggest one that we need to do better. On top of that, I don't think we're sharing our community impact effectively enough, and I think in particular the younger generations would really enjoy knowing the real impact that we can have in their communities. So I think we need to be doing that a little bit better as well. And then as well, just balancing the digital needs and convenience, particularly for younger generations, with traditional methods for our long-term members. So some of our long-term members really like, the option of just giving someone a call and getting through to someone quickly, or walking into a branch and having that human connection. So I think balancing those two is quite tricky and something that we need to be doing better.
I like your term long-term members, Rihanna. You are very politically correct on that one.
Had to use the right words there.
Chris, can you pick it up from there?
Sure. I think a lot of the challenges stem from, I was thinking about it's just an output of strategy, right? So do we actually, what are we designed, and each organization is a little different, but who are we actually designed to help the most? Now, we might help other people, but we have to design to help somebody. So if we want to go impact younger members, then we have to design ourselves a little bit to impact those younger members, which is really about access and then engagement, like really fast, right? So there's not a lot of time between when they activate and when you need to get them engaged. So if you have a lot of friction in your area, then you're going to miss out on that younger group because you might actually be designed to help myself and Leslie instead of Rihanna. And we might have a little more patience between the time of activation and the time of actually getting engaged. And so I think a lot of times it's how we develop our system and who we're really focused on designed to help. But a lot of it is there. And then credit unions are designed to help people in those moments when they need us. And I think Rihanna hit on something really well. A lot of us are really good at that, but we're not really good at telling then the member or other members that we helped them in the time they really needed us. And so to build that loyalty in those moments that really matter, also is something that has a lasting impact. If you impact somebody at a moment that truly matters, you build a loyalty that they'll tell everybody about. If you impact them just and then all those little operational issues or fraction can either add to that loyalty or take away from that loyalty. If you're good at it, they'll add to it and they're like, that's why I love you. And if they erode, they'll find excuses for people that they truly love. But you only really get the loyalty at those moments that really matter. And are you designed to impact and make those experiences delightful and meaningful?
Terrific, Chris. Les, what's your take on this question of challenges?
Well, I think credit unions are kind of coming to the realization that the traditional measure of being the primary financial institution has kind of changed. Back in the day, it was, you want that checking account. And right now, just that word to Gen Z, what is a checking account? Right. And instead, it's you want to get into the transaction stream, right? You want to be part of their everyday lives. And that's a card, right? That's a card.
Right.
You want to be their peer-to-peer, their bill pay, their card on file, right? With apps. I mean, my wife, we use Cash App, even though it's somewhat of a competitor, but it's tied to our credit union debit accounts. So my sons it's reinforcing, and they're millennial and Gen Z, well, Gen Z really, the credit union brands. So I think that's something we really need to think about as credit unions because we traditionally, again, we offer checking accounts and loans, and then, oh yeah, we'll show them a credit card. I think we need to kind of flip that around a little bit and lead with the credit card. My humble opinion.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Before we push on, I've just received a little note from Joni, who'll be our CMO in the States, who'll be joining us shortly. When you registered for the webinar, we had a survey that we were keen for you guys to complete. We only had a couple of people complete that survey. I wonder, Joni, given that you put it in the chat quite some time ago, can you re-put it in the chat? And can we please request those that are attending the webinar today to just it literally takes 2 minutes to complete that survey. It will absolutely help us shape the conversation today and into the future. I see someone, Mira is saying that she never saw the survey. Please, Joni, if you could put that in the chat again. So, folks, we've kicked around challenges. I wonder if we can move to the perhaps more pleasant topic, for want of a word, of what's been working. Okay, because this is a collegiate conversation, and it would be interesting to understand again, if I may, Rihanna, starting with you. What have you seen either inside, beyond, or beyond?
Absolutely.
What's been
Beyond.
working? Yeah. Yeah, please.
Well, we hear directly from the members. In my position, I do still talk directly to members at times, and they will tell us what makes them want to stay and what makes them want to leave. And one of the big things that makes them want to stay is the personalized conversations that they do get when they are able to speak to someone. So beyond bank, we do something called banking reviews. We do them at least once a year. And basically that's just a way of having a conversation with a member to actually tailor their needs to their life stages, because of course things change as your life changes. So an account that suited you 5, 10 years ago might not be the one that they need right now. So having those conversations is really important. And being able to get, speak to a real person that has that empathy, that understanding, is something that they still enjoy having that ability to do so. Another thing that I think that's working well, particularly for us at Beyond Bank, is having specialized teams. So we have a team at Beyond Bank called the Customer Care Scam Team. So customers can call us and go through directly to that team if they believe they've been victim of a scam. Again, that's a really, stressful, urgent situation. So having the ability to speak to someone efficiently, and again, having a person with empathy in a situation like that is a really big thing. So that's something that's been great that we've implemented recently that I think's been working well. And then lastly, I would just say that the mix of digital banking and still having, branches and in-person, verbal, I should say, call centers that they can talk to. The mix of that, even though again I still feel like we could sort of do better and we need to keep working on that balance, the fact that we do have that balance there is something that I think is great. They can access simple tasks like a statement, for example, at the convenience of just jumping onto their phone, onto their app. But if they have something more complicated, then they can give us a call or head to a branch and we can assist.
How many branches does Beyond have?
We have, I believe, it's across Australia. So in Adelaide alone, we have, I think, about 12. Across Australia, I think we have around 40 at the moment.
Wow.
Across several states in Australia. So there's still, quite a few branches that we do have, and I think that's something that we do hear a lot from our members, that they actually say, please keep those branches. We like having the ability to actually go and speak to a person.
Yeah, because I think particularly in the US, Chris and Les, that there've been a massive shutdown of branches, haven't there?
I wouldn't say a shutdown, probably a little bit of a slowing of adding.
Right.
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
building on what Rihanna said, like what's working well is I think the credit unions that have really embraced a strategy, meaning like they really have an omni-channel strategy of branch, phone, digital, and they're advancing all of those. You're seeing a lot of growth in there. You're seeing some growth in the digital only ones, but really I think the omni-channel is, you're seeing a lot of that expansion and growth there. And so, going back to what's working, I think sometimes we forget, like there's immensely loyal members to the credit union in the United States. Like they love, you'll hear that all the time. You don't hear that a lot about any other industry other than maybe hamburgers or a food place. They're like, oh, I love that place. And that same affinity exists
That's
for a lot of
interesting.
people in the credit unions.
Yeah.
And so we can also learn by looking back and saying, how did we establish that loyalty? Don't worry about the channel strategy. That's got to change. Don't worry about the product. But we were dedicated to understanding those members and what they really needed. And I think that's the good news is you have a history almost 100-year history in the United States of having that and developing that loyalty. We've got members who will never leave. Even if they left us, they would never leave the credit union industry. They are dedicated to it. And so
Yep.
how do you then build loyalty in a much more competitive, much more noisy world? Well, you really need to know those members you're targeting in on and really need to, again, get to know them and then show up in the ways they do. But I think those, going back to it, those members, when you can really, I think where the credit union people know the credit union is not going to give up on them. And I think that is the areas where you can really build off of, and then you can build a lot of community tied to there. And that's why that omni-channel approach of having branches and digital growth has been so expansive. People don't want to come into a branch to check on their balance, right? Or do a small thing, but they really do want you there, representative in the community. And those that are building branches, you'll see, are still outgrowing ones that are not. And so I think that is still a very viable piece of the strategy because people still want to look at one, you're in the community, and that branch sits a little bit as a billboard in that community to say we're investing there. But two, finances are still complex. And there's lots of places, and Leslie talked about this before, like lots of places that are trying to vie for your direct deposit, but there's also a lending component. And I think credit unions are still really good about helping people get ready for a loan, and especially their first loan. And that's a hugely loyalty building moment. And so how you prepare for that, because there's two parts of the equation, and fintechs are pretty good about taking deposits. They haven't quite figured out lending or value-based lending yet. And I think that's an area where credit unions can really build upon and find real value.
Great, Chris. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Les, what's working out there? You've just come from this conference in DC.
Yes, Governmental Affairs Conference.
What is the world of credit unions telling us?
Well,
what's hot out there right now?
Well, AI.
AI. Okay.
Right. Yes, that was kind of the theme. Every year there's a different theme, right? Something, you know, one year was like Bitcoin, right? One, it was just employment, like coming out of the pandemic, you know, and hiring and, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting. I think there's a misconception about Gen Z that about branches, right? They, yes, they are digital first, absolutely. But they still like to see branches. They may never go in, but when they're driving to work or driving to get their coffee or whatever, they like seeing the branch, right? It's comforting, right? And like what Chris said, they're part of the community, right? One thing that I'm starting to see, which I think is a real positive trend, is credit is becoming just more proactive in general, right? The days of just sitting in the branch and waiting for the member to come in and, you know, complain or ask for this or that, you know, you need to really communicate and create a dialogue with them, right? And get to know them. And I think that's also important with the younger credits. They want to know that you care, right? I mean, I'm loyal to the credit unions because I'm a credit union guy, right? But, you know, for the younger crowd, it's going to require a little bit more effort,
Yeah.
right? To get to know them and make personalized offers and also let them know that you care, even with their causes. I mean, you want to become part of their just everyday routine, their lifestyle. Support them on their life journey, which is their financial journey. They're intertwined.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, particularly coming back to you, Rihanna, and I think we're doing quite well time-wise. I'm just reminding everyone on this call today, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat, and Joni is curating those. Young people moving around, a little bit less so in Australia, but big time in the US. You know, I have family and friends in America, and you know, if you're not out of home by the time you hit 20, you know, the question is why. But how do credit unions hold on to those relationships when you have people moving at a rapid rate all over the country? I mean, that would be a challenge for credit unions in particular, I would have thought. Just any comments there?
I think it's tricky, and as Leslie was just speaking, I sort of had a thought that with branches as well, when it comes to younger people, yes, they might not go in, but like you say, seeing them out in the community, or at least just reminding younger people that they're there. You know, if I don't see something around, I'm not going to think to go and find them. I need to see it in front of me, and then I might think back to when I need something. Like, okay, maybe I need a loan. Oh, I drove past that one the other day. Let me have a quick Google and see what they're about. And then if I Google them and I do see, you know, the community impact that they're having really clear as day, and I can see the positive impact that they're having on my community, I'm going to be more likely to look into them closer and potentially, you know, join them. So I think, again, that mix there of sort of seeing them out in the community, but then being able to really effectively share what we do, that's sort of the balance that we need to be able to grab the younger people, particularly when, yeah, everyone is moving across, you know, country, across states. Everyone's just moving really fast. You know, I know for myself, again, I want something to be quick. If I need to do something sort of, you know, life admin, I call it, I want it to be really, really quick and convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. Chris.
Yeah, listen, I think when I go to that, I think the way I think about it is I'll go to again the value to start, which is you got to understand who you're bringing in early. Like who are you attracting as as a new member, and then how are you trying to grow them? So I'll give you an example. I think everybody in, at the credit union is like, we would like to, at the end of the day, have some sophisticated investors and people who have some wealth and, people who have large amounts of deposits, but you may not attract those people. You may have to grow them your own. So in our case, we would look and we did a lot of persona work and we got into credit builders and credit seekers. And we said, okay, from there, we're then going to also attract young families and then we're going to help grow them into becoming homeowners and then we're going to have products that help them to, to invest and become investors. And so we had a product set that would move them along. So that's one thing is do you have a product map to your members' success journey, right? Have you actually designed a journey for your member and versus just a bunch of different
A
tools?
lifetime journey,
Yeah,
Chris.
right. That takes them across a lot because I think it's hard to say I'm going to build a lifetime member if I don't have a
Yeah.
lifetime journey for, and there might be a couple paths. So I think that's one is that's compelling. Then once they're there, your digital needs to be good enough that they don't have to leave you just because they left the area. And
Right.
that's actually a really good marker is does
Yeah.
someone like it's obviously better if they can be there, but if someone moved from Austin, Texas, even to, to the East Coast, do they have to leave you from a banking perspective? Because
Right.
I don't have the capabilities to serve them anymore in their transactional business. And
Mm.
if you don't, you really do need to invest in that upgrade because it actually means you don't have enough to keep them even if they're local because as Rihanna said,
Interesting. That's a
pe-
tough call, Chris.
yeah, people want the challenge. People want the service that is appropriate to what they want to do. If Rihanna's going to take her first home loan out, which we just kind of found out she was doing, and then she might expect that to take a little bit of time, and she might have a lot of patience for that to take some time. But she also wants to learn from a person about it, so she knows she's getting it right. If she's just checking a balance or moving money or sending $10 to a friend, she wants that to be super simple, frictionless. And so it's not about everything being the easiest. It's about is it creating value and is it appropriate to what the person expects? And so I think so often we put friction in all of these things just because there's friction in them. And so we got to remove the friction. But there's real education points, which goes back to why branches are important when needed for something that someone doesn't do very often, they actually want to talk to a person
Yeah.
because they don't want to get it wrong because there's real cost to getting it wrong and you don't want to get your first mortgage wrong and it might be up to your fifth or sixth more by the time you've traded houses to say okay now I kind of understand the process but you always kind of want somebody to know that someone's there and so that's the way I think about digital capabilities is if somebody moves, do they have to leave us? Because those are probably your baseline capabilities of just transacting. Um, that you probably need to build in anyway. And your point, it might be a high ceiling, but I think that's the right way to think about it.
Can I ask this question as well? And this is perhaps, Rihanna, a little bit less to you and um, the more to Les and Chris. But what is the correlation between the products? Like Rihanna's just bought a house. Does that mean she's up for a car loan because she's vested in her mortgage? Like over the course of that lifetime of that journey, do you guys, you veterans in the game, do you actually see correlations between these products? Or are they all just separate parallel streams?
Leslie, you want to go?
I mean, they're intertwined. And again, I think credit unions are becoming a little bit more savvy of kind of recognizing cues. They're not just processing, a product and then we're done. No,
Yeah.
wait a second. Rihanna just got a mortgage. Okay. Maybe it's because she's going to have children, right? So maybe we should reach out to her and do an insurance review, right? She may need a bigger
Uh-huh.
car for
Right.
those expecting
Right.
children, right? It all ties in. And again, I think credit unions need to become more savvy. I also want to add one point too,
Yeah.
is that I'm going to get back to the the younger crowds. and having products that are relevant. One thing that I'm seeing is helping uh, the young folks kind of build wealth, right, to begin with,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that, for rewards programs, a lot of them are static. They don't have, flexibility in terms of redemption options. And that's important because, when uh, these members they may have a different need at a different time, right? Their car went in the shop. I need the cash, right? They just got their income, federal income tax return, right? So they're a little flush with, okay, I want to make a donation, okay, right? So you need to be able to accommodate their needs. But one thing that I'm seeing sprout up too is helping them build wealth. And there are tools, in fintechs that are kind of popping up, which I think are very important. You want to, again, it's part of the transactional, right? You want to become part of their daily life, right? You want them to use your card to buy groceries, right? You want them to use you, right, in the custodial relationship, right, to start building wealth, right? Again, you win the transaction battle, and then the deposits and the loans will come.
Yeah, I think, Ivan, to your question, I think what we look at is like a whole member, right? So, and you say, okay, if I had a whole member, I would have a member, and if they're married, I should know that. I should know things about them. And so the data
Well said.
capabilities
Yeah.
is have to keep growing, and they have to become more, for lack of a better term, democratized in the organization where everyone can have member view. And so someone working in a branch ought to know the person sitting in front of them and the data that we have. So are all of your data elements lined up so that I can have a whole view to a member? So if Rihanna bought, let's say, a condo, and I keep using Rihanna, Rihanna's going to feel a lot of pressure because we're assigning her babies and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
having kids apparently, yes.
But yeah, but we, if she has a
Lifetime value,
condo, I
Brianna.
might know one view. But if she say bought a fixer upper, well, then I'm like, okay, she's probably going to need a home equity. Maybe she's going to need a HELOC. Maybe she's going to need to look. And then also we should be looking at her car loans. Like, who are her car loans to? We know every provider of car loans and what they kind of tend to provide. And we know where we can save her dramatically. And we're like, hey, if you're with X person, we ought to be proactive and say, hey, we just see that you have a loan payment going out to these people. Did you know we also offer this? And on average, we save people Y. And if we can, that offer ought to be easy for her to accept because we already understand and have all the data. We have to use, not just have the data, we've got to use the data to make really good decisions. And I'll give you one example also on what Leslie was talking about.
Interesting.
One of the areas a lot of, let's just call Gen A and Gen Z, want to really utilize is they want to be investors, right? So, they also want to be all sports bettors in the US, but we're not going to get into that one. That is not a healthy one, but investing can be real healthy. So this
You
might,
don't know how bad it is in Australia, let me tell
it's
you. It's
it's something
shocking. We
else.
are
So
the
it's a
biggest
whole,
Tell that to my
gamblers in the
son.
world.
yeah, we could do a whole financial health thing on
It's
sports
right,
betting,
Brianna? It's
but we
shocking.
won't. But we'll say,
Oh, yeah.
but fractional investing is one that a lot of people want to get into. Well,
Yes,
do you have a thought as a credit union about that topic? And it doesn't have to
absolutely.
mean that you have it in your digital app. You might have a partnership, but do you actually have a thought about how, because that's how a lot of younger people are getting into investing. One of the things we did, we removed all hurdles for someone to talk to a financial advisor. So there used to be, if you walk in, you've got to have X amount of money. Now you can talk to them with no money. And that's step one, but it's still talking to someone. These guys might just want to go on a Robinhood do you have a thought about that? Or are you just okay with, in our case, hundreds of millions of dollars a year floating on direct deposit directly out to one of these micro investing apps, but you don't have a thought on it. And again, you ought to have a way to engage that. So at least begin to add value to that discussion. And maybe you do frequent reviews with those people and say, how's that performing? Because you might be a better served by moving over to our investment services. You should have some thought around how to be engaged. But that's one I think that a lot of credit unions, there's an opportunity, but I don't know that anyone's taken advantage of it yet.
That's
From a
really,
customer
really,
service
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just from a frontline, I guess, customer
Yeah.
service point of view,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
talked earlier about those banking review conversations, that's exactly what that is. So we're not the ones that are obviously putting together the, the lifetime journey, if you will, or the products, but our team are trained in those products and just have that, how to have that conversation to learn how maybe we could help them, and just talk to them and just see where they're at in their life. And then they can kind of identify and go, okay, maybe, it would be good if you spoke to someone from our lending team or our insurance team or all of the
Right.
above, just to talk through, where you're at, and they're the experts, and then they can go into greater detail. But our team have that primary conversation to really identify. And a lot of the time you find, particularly again with younger people, is they haven't really thought about this stuff. So they
Yeah.
really appreciate someone actually asking these questions and then being put through to someone else that is the expert in that particular product or that particular area, that can help guide them as to what their options are and where they can go.
Right.
That's super interesting. I mean, as you guys were talking, I was thinking about what our biggest supermarket retailer in this country, I'm talking about Woolworths, 1,400 stores, very much the leader in the game, although their major competitors caught them up a little bit. But their formula is really simple. When I buy Nutella, okay, which I try to buy less of, but
Just falls
um,
into the trolley.
yeah, it just falls into the trolley somehow. They know that I buy that, and they have a deal with Nutella, so why wouldn't they offer that to me into the future?
Mm.
All right, they know I like it. All right. Now, with great respect to the financial services industry, not just credit unions, a car loan is a product, not dissimilar to Nutella. Okay. And so if we can get that journey clear, if they know what I've done, if the credit union I am with knows my history, then that would surely inform the future. And I have a feeling, Rihanna, that having kids of your age, that as discriminating as millennials are, when a when the business you deal with recognizes you personally in the process, I think you look at that quite positively, don't you? Okay. So the way
Yeah,
they
100%.
communicate with Chris may be quite different
Yeah.
to the way they
Right.
communicate with Les. Okay. Taking the Woolworths example into play. I mean, what do you get at Woolworths? With great respect to Woolworths, this is a fact. You get half of 1%. Spend 2 grand, get a $10 voucher on your next purchase. All right. Okay. I repeat, half of 1%. Okay. And yet, Everyday Rewards is considered one of the most successful loyalty programs globally, actually. They've come from nothing. They said they'd never have a loyalty program because they
Mm.
were price beaters. They've put it in play. Think about the data they have on me and my Nutella. It's ridiculous. Okay. So, what Chris is talking about in being able to shape and influence the conversation and talk to you perhaps 3 months prior to a decision, which, based on our history, we know will be on your radar screen, that is helpful. Okay. And you
Right.
either opt in or you don't, but at least that communication that hits your inbox is something there's a great likelihood that it will be welcomed. Okay. And I mean, that has to be what member lifetime value is about, is based on the statistics of where you've come from, is the likelihood of you behaving and positively receiving an offer into the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think about like Rihanna and the frontline teams, how frustrating it is because most of them are so mission driven. Like if they can help somebody move forward, it's the reason they do what they do. And how frustrating it is sometimes as organizations, we don't enable them with the right data to do it. So they found out they missed an opportunity to really help somebody. And I think that's so when, for everybody who's joining, I think that's the thought is Does your data enable that? So when Rihanna and her team get on, do they have the best ability to serve that member with what they need today and ask the right questions
Yeah.
to do that? So it's data plus training plus empowerment, right? It's
Mhm.
those elements. And so, and then your digital channel should do the same without Rihanna. It should know the data so it offers up the right products, offers up the right kind of education, right? And so the channels should do relatively the same thing. It's just which channel the person chooses. And so I think you're 100% right that we ought to be thinking about that. And then the other thing about my member lifetime value, people can do one or the other, but a lot of times do we actually incent lifetime value? So if a member does have their checking account with you or their transaction account with you, we'll call it, I think it's a better term for it. Do they get a better deal on car loans? If they're a credit card user, do they get a better deal on XYZ, right? I think a lot of times as credit unions, we've stayed out of credit cards when, to Leslie's point, they're the best, most loyal product. If you can do it right. I'm not saying do it irresponsibly, but responsibly done, it is the most impactful product for most people because they're going to have one. And it'd
Yeah.
be better for them to have ours at 10, 12, 14% than it is at 28%.
Absolutely.
Um, and we're not going to ding them if they have a little hiccup. We're going to help them manage it and we're going to help them learn credit appropriately. That's what we're designed for. And so I think in those elements, that's the way I kind of think about how we deliver that value, which is the last step of the process. You can have all the value you want, but if you don't have a good way to deliver it through the frontline teams and through your digital, it doesn't matter because no one's going to find it.
And if you do have a hiccup in with one product and you've been resolute and consistent with
Right.
others, and I'm choosing my words, Mr. Treasurer, very carefully, then you've got a whole picture of someone. It's not just a single credit card
That's right.
problem. It's okay, he's on time or she's on time across three other products. Let's consolidate this. I wonder, Les, whether you see that in your travels.
Well, I'm going to go back to the GAC conference again. AI was the big, topic, and I went to one session, and there was a gentleman. He's a technology guru, and he says, "Look, AI is worthless until you get your data
Yeah.
right in check.
Yeah,
Right? You have to get your data organized. To
yeah,
Chris's point, Rihanna and her team, they need good data. The technology surrounding it, right, is just it's meaningless.
yeah,
I also went
yeah.
to another session where they said, technology doesn't replace mission, right?
Yes,
Good.
You
yeah,
have to have the mission, right? You have to understand your members, who you're serving, right? How you want to serve them, how you want to guide them along, what's your niche, what's your differentiators, right? And build the technology around that. Not, just because you have a great digital banking app, right? Okay, that's great. Chase has a great
That's
digital
right.
banking app, okay?
yes,
And they're
yeah,
actually viewed amongst Gen Z as like the hippest brand, right? Compared to others, right? The thing is,
okay,
what can Chase not do? They can't build community, right? They
right,
can't unite people and help people on a day-to-day grassroots in the trenches, right?
yeah,
Level that credit unions can do.
yes, yes. No, that's really, really interesting. Folks, I'm going to invite Joni Ekovich to join us. Joni is our CMO based in South Carolina. She's been monitoring the chat. Welcome, Joni.
Hi,
Um,
everyone.
I wonder, Joni, I know we've had our survey running, but I think it might be early days. Can I put you on the spot as I do from time to time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than flick the Q&A to me, you've been monitoring that.
I have.
I wonder if you could, first of all, tell us a little about what you do. And
Yep.
let's, what we're a quarter before the hour, so we're doing well. Just been a really fabulous conversation so far. But can you bring us some of the questions that have come through and obviously direct them as you see fit to either the panel or
Yep.
to each of the individuals based on your knowledge of who we have? Over to you, Joni.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, a
Mm.
little bit about what I do. I am the CMO at Points for Purpose. I am based in the United States. I'm on the East Coast in South Carolina. And I am in charge of really building out the personalized plans and strategies for anyone who ends up deciding to be part of the Community Rewards program or utilize Points for Purpose platform for any of their membership lifetime value needs. So my goal is to kind of be your guys's right hand woman to help grow your business and create strategy that builds that MLV. So that's what I do. That's what I'm here for. I work honestly for you guys, and Points for Purpose pays me. So, but at the end of the day, it's you guys that we work for. A great question came through the actual Q&A. It is the question is it about having the options to interact using the most convenient means and channel for the task at hand? And then the second part of that question is members have channel preferences, but do they see themselves as a channel user or a member first? This is to everyone, so I think it would be good to kind of hear at all the different levels what you guys think of that.
Jump in, guys.
Rihanna, you want to start?
I
'Cause I
think,
think you get a good
yeah,
leader.
absolutely. Yeah, sure. I think we briefly touched on the first part of that question earlier in the end, that I think that it is about the most convenient means and channel for the particular task at hand. Something more complicated, someone genuinely might actually want to speak to a person, but they want it to be efficient. They want to call through and speak to someone straight away rather than, waiting on hold or something like that. So I think it is about tailoring it to the specific task, something that can be accessed in a more convenient method. I think that would be the preference for most people. Like we said earlier, you're not going to necessarily walk into the branch just to get your balance, right? That's probably not what you're going to the branch for. And in terms of the channel preferences, I think it does come down to the particular person. And again, I mean, it's hard to assume, but I would likely say the younger generations almost do sort of see themselves as a channel user rather than a member first, particularly if they're not actually hearing effectively enough what it means to be a member, what it means to be part of a credit union or a community-owned bank, what the actual impact that them being a member is actually having. If they don't know that, I don't think that they necessarily see themselves as a member first. I think they might sort of see themselves as someone who uses the digital channel to speak to someone when they need it. Whereas someone that's maybe been a member for a bit longer that doesn't use the digital channels as much, they probably do see themselves as a member first. And on the phones, we do hear from members who have been with us for a really long time. Beyond Bank have merged many different credit unions, and some of them will call us and they very proudly tell us that they were joined the credit union in 1980, for example. So yeah, they definitely see themselves as a member first in those regards.
Yeah,
I actually want to do a quick follow-up on that, Rihanna. In that case, viewing as a channel member or channel user versus a member, you're talking a member is saying, I'm proud that I'm a member of this. So that you're seeing the younger generation see themselves more as a channel user. And I'll open this up to all three on this. How do we get the younger generation, or how do you guys feel or would like to suggest getting that younger generation to move from being, I'm just a channel user, I just use them for my digital banking or for my, checking needs or whatever it is, to I'm a member of something bigger, who's here for me and who's here for my community?
yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to value to the person, right? I think so often we want them to value what we value, and that loyalty is built over time. So I think if you don't explain like, hey, let's use an example. So if we use the same FICO score everyone else uses, even though they've been a member for 20 years and have a great payment history with us, but they might not have a great credit score. But then we're like, well, they don't value membership. I'm like, well, we didn't value membership. And so how do we, and then we have to tell them like, hey, on your FICO score, it might be, 620, and we understand that's tough, but you've got a really good history with us. And because you've had good membership with us, we're now going to extend this credit for you. Right. But here's why we're doing it.
Right.
And you've got to, you've got to build that. But I think Ron is right. There's so many options today that if we want people to value membership, then membership has to have a value. And if we show up with just product that aren't combined, and there's not a defined journey and experience of our member, there's not value, driven, that actually shows up in how we serve them, not just our community, right? And it's great that we're doing volunteer work, but how am I showing up for that member at the time that they need us? And then why do we do that? And that we're committed to that. I think a lot of times we want the best of both worlds, and we end up getting the worst of both. We might have a less of an experience for them, and we don't have, we don't have the capital then to pivot and expand with the same capabilities. So we end up on both sides versus really explaining the value of why we're investing in what we're investing in. And to go back, I think also understanding just for this, because you had asked the channel question, every channel is not designed to do the same thing. So I think you also have to understand who's utilizing the channel and what they're utilizing it for, and then optimizing that channel for those users, those members, and that purpose. And so I think sometimes we want every channel to do everything. I mean, if you look at our phone users, they were a different generation than our branch users, which is actually a younger generation than our pure digital users, right? So it was a weird thing, but you have to look at that data, understand it, and then optimize for it. And I think sometimes we just you'll hear someone in a meeting say, "Oh, no young person's going to the branches," and you'll hear that, and like that's probably common. Everybody's probably heard that in a meeting, and I'm like, well, when you look at the data, it actually shows this. And now let's optimize for what's really going, because we were serving a heavy Spanish speaking population, and we optimized our channels for a heavy Spanish speaking population. So our branches were bilingual. And so guess what? We got a lot of young families who found great service in a convenient way in their primary language. And so it changed the demographic outcome. So you do have to, I think, go to the data to decide that era, and then how do we deliver that value? And that's how you build membership value over time.
Really interesting. Les, any
Yeah.
comment?
I'm actually going to put on my personal hat right now. Chris mentioned, it's important to have an omni-channel strategy, but also then you need to optimize them. Like for me, if I never visit, a credit union branch again, I'll be happy, right? I'm pretty much digital now, but I'm a heavy phone user. I like, that's just me.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I got to admit, sometimes I've had some, challenging, moments, right? And part of it's, data. Actually, a big part of it's data. Part of it's, outsourcing to third-party providers for the calls. You know what I mean? There's a lot of moving parts in that. But that's like my personal pet peeve, man. I want to pick up the phone. Plus, I hate phone trees, right? I don't want to go. That is just, again, that's me. Okay, maybe some people
No.
love phone trees. So if that's what your members want, they're always going to call and they want to go through a phone tree, then do that, right? But I think the kind of the overarching point that we're at is understand your members, understand their needs, right? And serve them the way they want to be served.
Just to jump on that real quick, because we're going to talk about channels, and Leslie was bringing up AI earlier.
Yeah.
The AI in the phone channels is a great use case because it's a little bit more adopted. It's farther down the road, but there's been some really bad things. Like there's been some bad outcomes in people that are jumping on AI without understanding what their members actually want to do in that channel.
Yeah.
And they
you
end
can
up with
get
all
it
these
wrong
members
very easy.
in frozen, frustrated loops. And guess what
Yeah.
happens? That feedback comes back, and everyone's like, well, AI is just out. I'm like, no, you just have to have a good disciplined approach for it. So it can be an amazingly it needs to be effective first,
Right.
efficient second. And I think too often we jump to efficient first, and then we're like, I can't believe the members didn't like it. I'm like, IVRs, everyone hates IVRs. And so guess what? It was a bad time. And so now we've got to learn from that and just, but don't just jump to the next technology without looking at the data. And I think that's where people are getting themselves. They're just jumping from one pan to another pan to another pan.
Yeah.
And Leslie's just going to be shaking his head frustrated about the next one too.
Well, like we said, technology is not mission.
That's right. That's a
No.
great phrase. I'm going to steal
Yep.
that.
That's excellent. I mean, the thought that occurs to me, you were saying before, Rihanna, and I'm conscious of time. We're going to need to hand back to Liz very shortly. You spoke about, Rihanna, the expert teams, okay, that are dedicated and have deep knowledge across the various products. But what occurs to me is there an expert team running the expert teams? And is the correlation between the products and the data, as Chris says, is that being tracked? Okay. Because that optimization, I would imagine, is a great telltale for whether you are personalizing your messages over time. Okay.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
cannot be done in silos because I would imagine the big end of town, the big banks, are probably from time to time going to beat the individual products that a credit union offers. Okay. Chris's 10% could in fact become 8% because they've got a loss leader promotion. All right. But if we have a whole view of the member, I think members will be forgiving if the overall relationship is right. Okay. And there's no naivety in saying that. But if you're going one off in football terms, you're probably going to get smashed. Okay. And I know a lot of that happens in NFL. It certainly happens in NRL in this neck of the woods without any padding or protection. But that whole of life concept, I think is key. Joni, just before we hand back to Liz, is there
Yeah.
a final one?
Yeah. So I think we're getting close. Some questions that came through were more along the lines of getting the recording and things like that. Everyone, you will get a recording of this. Please keep a lookout for emails from myself and also from Roku. We will be sending out follow-ups. I will also, again, I will repost into the chat the survey link. If you have not gotten a chance to fill it out, please fill that out. I will be doing an analysis of what that finds and send that out as well. But I thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Ivan for hosting. I personally learned a lot. I am not a credit union person, but I am learning that I probably should be as. So I will be reanalyzing my banking options here, and definitely learned so much in this chat. And I hope everyone that attended did as well. If you would like to continue the conversation and really dig into your member lifetime value and your members' journey from building out their initial maybe college savings account to what they have for their retirement, please reach out to us. I'm going to put my email and also my Calendly link in the chat as well. Please go ahead and grab that. Reach out to me. You can either email me, or if you want to go ahead and just set up a meeting, let me know. We would love to kind of work with you on how do you bring more value to your members to really grow that lifetime value. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. And
Thanks, Joni.
I hope you all found it as informative as I did.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you,
Thanks very
Joni.
much.
Thank you, Ivan, and thank you to all the presenters. I think this was a great fireside chat, and we really appreciate everybody who took part in this. So again, we will have this also on our Woku YouTube channel within the next couple of days. And I want to put this out there that if you enjoyed this session and you're interested in more in-depth learning and global exchange, Registration is now open for the World Credit Union Conference. The World Council will co-host this premier global credit union event with the Customer-Owned Banking Association in Sydney, Australia, from July 19th through July 22nd, 2026. So please scan the QR code on your screen to learn more and take advantage of this early bird registration we have for just a few more weeks. We would love to see you there. So this concludes today's webinar. Thanks again for joining us and have a great rest of your day.